Next up is another SEC versus ACC showdown. Number 8 Alabama at Florida State, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. These are two programs looking for a bounce-back season to varying degrees, obviously, because last year for Florida State, it got ugly. It was hideous for the Seminoles last year. Despite entering the year as the number 10 team in the country in the preseason AP poll, the Seminoles had a 2-10 record last year. It was their third worst record in program history and their worst record in 50 years. The last time they were that bad was 1974. Head coach Mike Norvell now enters a pivotal year 6 at Florida State. He has 2 new coordinators to help him out too, and plenty of incoming transfers to help him turn this program around. One of those transfers is their quarterback, and Tommy Castellanos, who was pretty confident this offseason about this Week 1 game, saying, quote, "They don't have Nick Saban to save them in Alabama about Alabama. I just don't see Alabama stopping me." That's what he said in an On3 interview, Tommy Castellanos. So a lot of talk from him going into this game against Alabama. The Crimson Tide, they lost 4 games last year in their first year under Kalen DeBoer. The last time Alabama lost 4 games in a season was Nick Saban's first year on the job in 2007. So Alabama missed the playoff last year after having expectations to make the playoff. This year, they should be really optimistic, though. Dalton, you had them winning the national title in your predictions. They have the best defense in the country, in my opinion, and a really good offense, a lot of star power on offense, too. So expectations for Alabama, you have them winning the national title. I have them making the Final Four. They should be a lot better this year than they were last year. So really 2 programs looking for a massive bounce back after really disappointing years last year.
Florida State, especially after going 2-10 and it just front to back.
Even like 4 losses at Alabama is basically like going 2-10 for any other program.
Yeah, I mean, and they were still the first team to miss the playoff, which they have full expectations to make, especially a 12-team playoff, I'm sure, every year. But, I know Nick Saban's not there anymore, but I also still don't know that that's the program you want to go and piss off, because that's now been a thing for probably close to a month now that we've been talking about this whole feud. But no, it's a very interesting game between an Alabama team that really wants to get off to a good start, right? They have very, very high expectations as long as Ty Simpson, their quarterback, can really develop the way that Kalen DeBoer wants. And then Florida State, they need to bounce back in the worst way. Where you can't, no matter what the obstacles are, Florida State is not a program that's supposed to go 2-10 at any year, any time, doesn't matter. At least bowl game is the minimum expectation there, and it's going to be the expectation this year. Obviously, with Castellanos coming in, he was a starter at Boston College the last 2 years, but it's tempers. It feels like tempers are going to be flaring with everything we've heard for seemingly all summer with this, but Alabama's still got a really good football team, and Kalen DeBoer, I would not disrespect him either because he's a great coach.
He is. Tommy Castellanos is obviously the loudest person this offseason about this game, but also he might be the key for Florida State to have any chance of winning this game too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the one thing that you saw, the Achilles heels that you saw with Alabama's defense last year was when teams had mobile quarterbacks, right? They gave up in 5 different games last year. Okay, here's a stat for you. 5 different games last year where an opposing quarterback had at least 50 rushing yards. We're excluding sacks because we don't count it that way. All right, look at these 5 games. Alabama lost 3 of these games, right? The Oklahoma game, the Vanderbilt game, the Tennessee game, and the other 2 games in between there, USF and South Carolina. South Carolina they beat by 2, and USF was a 1-score game with 6 minutes left.
Yeah.
If you have a mobile quarterback, you have a better shot against Alabama. That's just a fact. Straight up, their defense is great, but they had a lot of issues last year, especially at the second level with just defending the option. It was kind of undisciplined. It was too often they got out of their gaps. The best example was the Oklahoma game with Jackson Arnold and what they did and then beating them 24-3. They need to play more disciplined football, right? When they faced an option last year, they gave up 6 yards a carry and allowed a 20% explosive run rate. I can guarantee you right now, Tommy Castellanos' legs and Gus Malzahn's play calling in the run-heavy system he's always run anywhere he's been. You think about all the way back to the days of Auburn and even recently at UCF. They're going to run the football at Florida State. That's their one hope to me this year of having any success. It's not Castellanos' arm. It's just shaky with his arm and his accuracy and throwing from the pocket and all that, but he can run. He's a dynamic athlete. You're talking about a guy over the last 2 years, 8th most rushing yards among quarterbacks, 7th in explosive runs, 11 in missed tackles for us, and he missed some time last year. 2 years ago, He had the second most rushing yards of any quarterback in the country behind Jaden Daniels, okay? Tommy Castellano's legs are the X factor for Alabama. That would be the first focus for me for Alabama's defense in this game. They struggled with mobile quarterbacks. They struggled defending the option last year. Again, Jackson Arnold, Lenora Sellers, Byron Brown, Diego Pavia, right? They just struggled to stay disciplined when they had to see it. They were a very young defense last year. A lot of those guys, especially in the back end, are a year older. You got to stay in your lanes. You got to play assignment football. You have to make tackles in open space. If they can do that, I don't see a whole lot of other answers for Florida State. But that's what Gus Malzahn's offense is going to be based around here, right? You're going to be talking about Roydell Williams and Tommy Castellanos in the backfield running the ball. They want to shorten this game. They want Castellanos probably to run for 100-plus yards in this game. If he can do that, you start to see a window.
Yeah.
Because it's Gus Malzahn and it's the run game. I don't want to be throwing the ball very much in this game if I'm Florida State. But mobile quarterbacks, that was Alabama's Achilles heel last year.
Gus Malzahn was also the head coach for Tommy Castellanos in his 1 year at UCF. He spent his freshman year at UCF, too, so they're kind of reuniting in this offense now.
Look, Gus Malzahn has a type. He runs that modern triple sort of option football. We've seen it since the days of Cam Newton at Auburn, right? This is what he's done for years and years, and he's always had a dynamic, multifaceted running game. We've even seen that at UCF the last few – not last year because they really kind of fell apart on him with KJ Jefferson and all that, but even before that with John Reese Plumlee and guys like that. His teams can always run the ball. And if they can do it with the option attack in this game, then there's a crack in Alabama's defense that showed over and over and over last year.
So you're watching, obviously, Tommy Castellanos on one side. I'm watching Ty Simpson on the other side in his first career start for Alabama. He has been incredibly patient, considering he was a former 5-star recruit. He sat on the bench for 3 years at Alabama, making his first start at Florida State this week, and has a terrific supporting cast around him too. Head coach Kalen DeBoer and offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb, who is now back with Kalen DeBoer after having a terrific 2023 at Washington with Michael Penix Jr. He's now back in the college ranks after a year with the Seattle Seahawks. He is their offensive coordinator this year. Two of the brightest offensive minds in the sport. Alabama also has my number one offensive line in America heading into this year. They also have a superstar at wide receiver in Ryan Williams, my number 2 receiver in the country, one of the best receiving cores all around in the country as well. He'll have to go on the road in a hostile environment at Florida State, who added a top 10 corner in the nation in Jeremiah Wilson over from Houston this offseason. And they hired a new defensive coordinator in Tony White, too. Tony White was the DC at Nebraska last year. Nebraska was 26th in EPA per play defensively last year. So Tony White is a very, very good defensive coordinator. So it's a tall task for Ty Simpson. It's not like your normal cupcake week 1 game for him. This is a pretty tough one for him.
Curious to see what that defense looks like, because in the past, Florida State's been known for playing heavy man-to-man coverage, and I would expect Ty Simpson would have to make some tight window throws in those scenarios. But Tony White at Nebraska would give a lot of different looks. There were weeks where he would go blitz heavy, even a lot of zero. There were other weeks where he would sit back and play a lot of soft zone, even drop 8 at times into coverage. So I think it's kind of a mystery what kind of defense he's going to be looking at. But the big thing for Alabama, like you mentioned, they've got those receivers on the outside. You've got the superstar in Ryan Williams. You've got Jeremy Bernard. You've got Isaiah Horton. One big thing, too, they won't have Jam Miller in this game, or likely for the first 3 games, I believe. They're hoping he's back by the time the Georgia game comes around late in September. But I think it's going to be a different type of challenge now for Ty Simpson. He hasn't played a lot of high. We've seen him play a little bit, but not a ton of high leverage football. This is going to be the highest leverage situation. And again, it's a theme of this college football season. Super talented teams with inexperienced quarterbacks. We've already talked about it today with Texas, with Ohio State, right? Now we're talking about it with Alabama. There's a few others even in the top 10 that we're going to get to in future weeks where it's, all right, the quarterback's kind of the big factor here. How's it going to look in his first road start in a real high leverage situation?
So in this game between Alabama and Florida State, will Alabama live up to the hype that you had on them preseason, where they're your preseason national title pick, or will Florida State pull off a monumental upset in week 1?
I'm trusting Alabama. I mean, I'm kind of obligated to at least. I'm kind of obligated to at least for week 1. But no, I'm taking Alabama 35-20. I do think there may be some moments here where we see Malzahn and Castellanos really get the run game rolling, and that's going to be the biggest thing for them is how long can they stick with that. The problem is, I think if Florida State does get in obvious passing situations, That's going to be a real problem, aside from him scrambling, right? If he has to throw into the teeth of this Alabama secondary that's extremely talented, I'm worried about it. I think Alabama, maybe there's an early struggle in this game, especially, again, with Florida State's run game, but I'm trusting Alabama as the more talented team here, 35-20.
I have Alabama also scoring 35 points. I have Florida State scoring 14 points. I think Alabama's going to roll in this game. I think Alabama simply the more talented team on both sides of the ball. Yes, it is at Florida State, and yes, Jay Miller is not playing in this game, but I think both Alabama's offense and their defense are going to have a lot of success in this game. So I have Alabama winning pretty convincingly and covering that 13.5-point spread pretty convincingly too, with a 21-point victory on the road over Florida State.